what do we do? Do I just start recording?
I should also start recording, huh?
It's been a minute, and I had to re-download Audacity because it's a new computer.
Ooh, yeah, and
boy.
my Audacity's settings have changed.
Oh no.
That's interesting. That would be really bad if I didn't catch that. I did.
You're kind of the producer. What's the number you want it to be? What are the settings you want?
The settings for what?
What are the settings? Like project rate hertz? Are we doing the usual 48?
Yeah, 48.
Okay. Great, and let's see. Okay, I am recording.
Great, so am I.
I'm sorry, what?
I am also recording. You could probably see that in glasses.
You're correct. Do we want to do a clap or do you want to do it after? Let's do it before.
Clap.
Clap?
Yeah, keep the routine.
Okay.
On, not after. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 3, 2.
Okay, I was close, if not on. Pretty proud. Pretty proud. Decently proud. We'll see.
It's funny because to me, you're not even close.
Well, no, but that's partially because of the delays and this, that, the other. I don't know. It's fine. That's why we do the Audacity recording.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Isaac?
You know, I'm doing all right.
Just all okay. Just all right. What? Tell me what's up. You good?
I've just been really low energy for like a long time.
Bro, same.
I feel like a lot of people have been that way though.
Now, I want to just address it right off the bat. Did we skip a week or a month?
We did skip a month, yeah.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure. That sucks. It's fine. We were both not.
It was not the month.
We showed up to that recording and literally said, I'm slightly inconvenienced. What if we played just video games instead?
Yeah, what if we said, let's not do this?
I forget what the inconvenience was, but it was minute, and yet at the time I was like, that's sufficient. Oh, that's good enough. I'm gonna call it there.
Yeah, I don't remember if that's when I was exposed to COVID. I think it was.
Oh, yeah, like the next day or whatever. Or just after you were exposed? I forget.
It was
I forget
like 5 days after. It was like 5 days after I was exposed to COVID. And you know, I was having that kind of a week where I was like, you know what I don't feel like doing is recording a podcast.
I forget what my thing. Well, I talk about this a lot. I deal with mental health stuff, and for me, it usually manifests in like messy, not dirty per se, but extreme mess. And so I've since cleaned that up a lot. We're not quite perfect, but boy howdy, are we getting there? So I'm in a much better place. You're in a much better place. Let's record the podcast. You know.
Sure. Let's record it.
I will say, in the month we've been gone, you informed me that there is a terrifying thing that I need to address. Another thing. Sorry. Item number 2 of Dan's housekeeping list.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
I do think this is the item 2 of 2, so we will be done here pretty shortly. But apparently we have listeners, and I don't know, not the folks who show up into the stream, but like listeners.
Yeah, we've got a few people who listen to everything.
What?
I mean, it's like 12.
No,
it's like 12 people.
Shout out to them. They're the best.
I know, right? Thanks, guys.
They're so cool.
It does mean a lot that we're not just screaming at nobody.
Yeah, it gives me purpose in life, which is new and exciting. So thank you. Is that too much?
If you want to help us out a little more, tell your friends that
this
is a show you enjoy.
for real,
if you
like,
enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, I don't really know why you're listening to this anymore.
No, but I get that. Look, I tell that to people all the time because I do the stream as well, and I do another show called RP Geniuses, which is a D&D podcast, and boy howdy, did that one get hit by the depression slowdowns, the depression storm, as one might call it. And so a tropical depression, there it is. I got there. I knew there was a joke in there, and I just needed to find it.
What's the name of your tropical depression, Dan?
Dan. And so
Hey, if we ever start a band, Tropical Depression, pretty good band name.
It's pretty good. But no, so what I tell people all the time is, like, give it a shot to be supportive. Tell, if you, especially if you don't like it, but even if you do, tell someone about it that you think might like it. And then the last step is to what was it? Oh, I have something.
Leave a review on iTunes.
Yeah. I think that's what it is, because that's what I usually tell people in the stream is try it once, tell other folks about it. Yeah, I think that the last one is like review it or in some way interact with it, and then honestly, you can turn notifications off.
Sure.
That's what I always tell people.
If you want to reach out to us, we're available on social media.
Yep. Do you want to plug yours first, or I don't know how you do? We even plug them? I forget. How do we podcast?
I don't remember.
Okay.
If you want to reach out to both of us, you can reach us at, what's our email address? The Cogitators Podcast at gmail.com. That's our email address.
Smooth intro. How are you?
We're a good podcast with real things.
I gotta tell you, this is another thing. Adding to the list of reasons why Dan's terrible at making content. Small trigger warning for anyone who has issues with like skin stuff. It's not a big one, but anyone who's like real sensitive. I've just had some hives lately, all over my hands and arms and neck and back. So I took a Benadryl, and I'm sleepy boy. I'm already on my way to Sleepy Town.
Oh boy.
I'm already on the bus.
You remember when I said that I've been real low energy recently?
Oh, I remember.
That's not good for
our
listeners.
No, trust me, I'm working on it. I'm working on it as we speak. Trust me.
Dang it, Dan! Why didn't you just keep the hives?
Yeah, I know. I should. Dude, I genuinely considered just trying to power through, and I was
They
like,
would have fueled you.
Here's the thing, though. I've got other things to fuel me because I'm getting back onto keto.
Ooh.
I took a little hiatus, and I'm getting back on it for the quarter, for like this upcoming quarter. I basically do 2 months on, 1 month off, if that makes sense. Just so I can still live my life, still do whatever. And I play it loose by ear, but that's kind of the pattern. And getting back on it, I have my own kind of twinge and motivator going on right now, let me tell you. So anyway, what's our topic today?
Audio. This is gonna be good audio.
It's so good. Truncate silence, your best friend. It's solid. You don't need to use much of it, and boy howdy, does it just do it for you.
What's this podcast about that we're talking?
Do you want to do that one more time for future you, or do you just want to let that one sit there?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay. Well, here's the thing.
We're talking a podcast. That's the right verb.
Here's the problem with talking about podcasts is that you brought the topic. So you and then I tried to give a helpful, fun, like insightful, I thought, title, and I was told that's not what this one's about. So I don't know.
I wasn't asking about this episode.
Strap in, audience.
We never do housekeeping on this podcast, ever.
Here's the thing. Now that I know there's listeners and not just stream folk, I'm going to start doing Look, as someone who has produced other podcasts, who just is just tired. Yeah, I know. Roll your eyes at me, Isaac. It's fine. As someone who's produced other podcasts, you gotta do some house cleaning every once in a while. Not often. We don't have to do this every time, but just every once in a while, you gotta go in there and you gotta say, "Hey, let's clean up." Go, boop, 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 clean up.
Well, everybody knows this is a clean Christian podcast.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Oh, my editing.
I know. Did that for you.
So I thought today we might. I have this pet peeve, and I wanted to. I was at work this week, and I was thinking about this pet peeve, and I was like, you know what? I'm annoyed about this enough to do a podcast on it. And that's when I texted you. I texted you while I was at work. I said, you know what? I find this mildly annoying.
That was a work
Let's talk
text.
about it.
That was a work text?
Yeah.
I thought that was a mid-reading text. I really thought you were in the middle of like an article or something, you know?
Oh no, I was just,
You were just
doing my
angry?
job.
I got this text from Isaac yesterday at about 10 a.m. So I really thought you were reading, right? How does faith in the concept of God sound for a topic? And I was like, oh, he's reading something good. I'm excited. This was healed from anger. What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not anger. Just like.
Are you sure?
Man.
It sounds like anger.
No, it was more just like the conversations I have with people about this are normally just so boring. And I want them to be better and more interesting. So I decided, let's talk about this to kind of elevate the conversation.
Okay, so what aspect of this broad, if I might say, topic? Because I mean, like, obviously we're gonna solve this problem tonight, the problem of faith in the concept of God. But like, what aspect of it are we solving tonight?
Well, when you describe your beliefs, Dan, and you might not be the best example, but like, let's say you're being questioned on your beliefs. The questions that people ask you might be something like, do you believe in God?
Yeah. We get these sort of questions on the stream a lot, I'll be honest.
Yeah, or like, do you believe in the resurrection of Christ? Do you believe in this or that? But the one I want to focus on is that question. Do you believe in God? Or do you have faith in God? I'm kind of using them synonymously here.
Okay, I was going to say, those are two different questions in my book. You got to clarify.
Well, sure, there's like a relational aspect if you want to bring that in.
I always
that's
do.
That's how we're going tonight.
Words are
Dan,
important.
Do you believe in God?
That's a hard question. Yes.
You do believe in God?
By most standards, yes.
Okay.
By some standards, no.
What do you mean?
So I have reasonable, for my experience, evidence to say that there's something somewhere who has brought about the existence trying to be very careful because I semantics stew.
Live in your truth, Dan. Just tell me what's your heart saying?
My heart says that I think there's something out there that created things and, wrote the laws of physics by their very nature, yada, yada, yada. I just don't think it is the image other people have. So I don't think that what I imagine that thing to be or how I can rationalize it is not how most people would traditionally accept it. And I don't believe that rationalizing it is helpful. I'm agnostic. I think we just don't have the words to talk about the thing. So for me, it's not a belief of is the thing there. I do believe that. I just don't. I think talking about it's kind of pointless because we don't have the vocabulary to even begin to approach it. Does that make sense? That's why I was like yes and no. I'm a bad topic. I'm a bad subject. I understand.
So you have an agnostic approach to God.
Sure. Yes.
Or I'm gonna switch your word for you.
Oh, thank you.
Let me tell you what you think.
Okay.
You have a mystical understanding of God.
Ooh, that's a fun way to phrase it.
Or an even more fun word, apophatic understanding of God.
Ooh, I love apophatic and cataphatic as concepts.
As words, they feel good in the mouth.
They feel good in the mouth, and they feel good in understanding them because then it helps you understand the world a lot better. I feel like when you understand those two concepts, it really kind of broadens your understanding.
If you ever find yourself in the rare position where you have to talk to somebody about theology, just start throwing words like apophatic at them, and they'll be like, "Wow, you really know what you're talking about," even if you don't know what it means.
I feel like we should take 2 seconds and explain what apophatic and cataphatic are. So apophatic is the idea of saying what something is not, and cataphatic is saying claiming what something is. So to say that I have an apophatic understanding is to say that I'm more willing to say, well, that's not God, than I'm willing to say that's God.
Oh, it's definitely like an intellectual circle jerk kind of word.
Oh, super, super, super. But people do it.
What you could just say is negative and positive theology. So negative is apophatic because you're saying what it's not, and positive is cataphatic because you're saying what it is. I think the reason
why is because people, I was going to say, because you can say an apophatic thing about anything, but you can only say negative theology things about theology. Does that make sense?
No, you can say negative theology things about anything.
Okay.
Your dog is not a cat, and that's an apophatic understanding of dog.
I understand that, but that's what I'm saying. That's not negative theology.
Yeah, it is.
It's apophatic.
It's negative dogology.
But that's what I'm saying. Apophatic is such a more broader word that means exactly what it is. You're right. It is kind of circle jerky, but it's better. It's a good word.
It just is fun to say.
I love that word. Just don't take it from me is I guess what I'm saying.
I'm not taking any words from you. I'm the one who used the word.
That's fair. I'd like to use it, so. So that's what those 2 words mean, which will probably get context.
You have an apophatic understanding.
Yes,
of God.
yes.
A mystical understanding of God.
Yes.
Because you said, from experience, I have evidence that God exists.
Correct.
Right, so that's a mystical understanding.
Agreed.
So it's an experiential understanding.
Yes.
Okay, and you said God is the creator of the physical laws of the universe. And you believe that there is such a creator.
Based on my experience, it seems that is a proper understanding of the situation. But boy, howdy, don't have the words to talk about it.
Is God conscious?
I have no idea. And I'm not, I'm the kind of person who wouldn't make claims about those sorts of things, personally.
Does God act?
Ooh, I would say has acted. I don't know about actively acting. I don't know.
Why do you say has instead of is?
Because I have, based on skepticism, I can say, well, if I'm willing to believe that this all-powerful being, even if they're not all, omnipotent or whatever, even if I'm willing to say they created the physical realm, as we're going to talk about it, right? Again, I'm trying to talk about these things in such an archaic way in hopes that shows how buck wild the things we're talking about are. So they created this physical thing, so that means there was an action at one point in time, right? Based on my previous statement. I'm willing to say that they definitely have acted. I do not know if they are still an active participant in our realm of reality.
Okay, but you said you've experienced God.
Yes, I had an experience that made me feel like I had experienced God, yes. And I think that is what that was. It could have been an auditory hallucination, but I don't think so. But that's the thing, right? Is like, at what point do you stop trusting your senses, and at what point do you start blindly following reason? My thought.
I mean, that's an interesting question. We'll get to that.
Oh my god. I'm just trying to get through this survey.
It's an exercise. I'm setting up what I think the interesting question is.
Oh, I know what I understand
about.
what you're doing. I just don't. I'm scared. It scares me.
Let's move away from your experience of God and back towards your concept of God.
Sure.
So you've said God is the thing that created the physical laws of the universe. So it did act at one point.
Sure.
But you don't think it's acting anymore, or if it is, you don't know.
Correct. I would say
you don't know if it's conscious.
I lack the evidence to attribute any particular actions to God, but any action could be. Is the problem, which is why I do not attribute any action, because I do not know.
Is God good?
So this goes into the whole why I'm agnostic, or why in most conversations I explain to people that I'm agnostic. I know you said you've taken that label from me for this exercise, but like
I didn't take it from you. I just added on to it.
Sure. We are slowly adding on dimensions. Part of the reason I'm agnostic is because, like, oh boy, so you want me to attribute an absolute that is unobtainable for us, that, as far as I believe, right? Like, there is no perfect good that I can experience, touch, witness, do. But that's because I'm also kind of platonic in nature, and we can get into that if you really want. Because of that, I would say that I don't know. God, I think, is outside of those absolutes. I think God plays with those absolutes to create the idea of metaphysics is that it interacts with physics beyond physics, and I think good is one of those metaphysical things.
So, a being who can play with absolute concepts.
In theory, if I'm willing to say that they created everything.
Really, any absolute concept that can be moved is not absolute. They aren't
the absolute, because they are outside of the absolute.
So God is the absolute.
Oh, hold on. Say that last part again. You cut out for me.
So God is the absolute, then.
God is an absolute. I would.
So there are multiple gods.
You see, this is where I don't know. That's why I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying that, like, as far as, like, I'm concerned, to say that good is God, I don't know if I'm willing to say that, because I don't know enough about God, because there is no way for my feeble human English-speaking brain to understand it. That is why I am an agnostic. So even if God is good, and those two absolutes we're talking about are in reality one absolute, that's fine with me. And I think that, you know what I mean? And I'm willing to say, I bet it is in this case. I bet that those two absolutes do indeed intersect. I just don't know. I'm very, very skeptical. But again, I would like to believe that. I think that makes sense. Based on the context in which I experienced my experience, that leads me to be agnostic and not agnostic. I would say probably. I would say there's a good chance of it. Good chance that it's good, or that they're good. I just don't know. I don't know. Or if I have a suspicion, I don't want to give life to that suspicion, just in case it is not correct or miscommunicated to someone else, because our language is so limited compared to the unfathomable of a God, quote unquote, regardless of what we call that, or is that, or I don't know. Does that make sense?
Let's pivot. What is the Christian God?
Why are you doing this to me, man? Why? The Christian God is the Jewish God, but, like, do you mean historically what is it, or what is it to me?
I mean, you're befuddling my questions.
Yeah, because
you're trying to be too guarded. You're trying to be too clever.
Not clever. I'm just scared. I'm scared about how you're going to turn this against me to make me an atheist or something.
Dan, I need you to bring your truth, your authenticity to this exercise.
You want me to put my authenticity into your hands, Isaac Dillman? Is that what you're asking me to do?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Just kidding. Okay, ask me the question again. I'll do it.
What do you believe? Here, I'll make it even more impersonal. What is the average Christian's idea of God?
The average Christian's idea of God is you know what? It's the equivalent of a plug for drugs. I give you something, you give me something, we hang out on the weekends. When you come and bring me this stuff, like, we chill in it for a minute and, like, celebrate it, and then you go home and I enjoy the thing by myself. Like, it feels, you know what I mean? It feels very transactional and very much like, but close.
But the question isn't what is the average Christian's relationship with God. It is what is the average Christian's idea of God.
You mean, like, I'm just trying to make sure I'm answering the question correctly, or I guess I should put it like this. Yeah, have you seen Hercules?
Yeah.
You remember Zeus from Hercules?
Sure.
I feel like that's how a lot of people see God. this like benevolent dad who's just this jolly guy until something bad happens, and then he's just like furious.
When you said earlier you believe in God,
Yeah.
what do you mean by believe?
Let's get into it. Let's get into belief. So, belief is outside of knowledge. I do not know there is a God. I'm not going to claim to know that. So the idea of belief is to say I don't have evidence, and yet I'm still willing to say I think this is true. You can have reasonable belief, which I would say religious beliefs are not. Which is why I don't begrudge people when they don't believe that I had some kind of mystical experience or something, because like it is kind of insane to think that that is a real thing that happened in the year 2012 or 2011 or whenever that happened. Do you know what I mean? I don't begrudge people, but yeah. Does that make sense? I think I gave you too much. My anxiety is kicking in now.
I'm just thinking. I'm chewing on your words.
No, you're good. For our stream folks, I'm sure all this will get edited, so.
What does the average Christian mean when they say they believe in God? You know what? Let me ask you a different question.
Yeah.
Do you believe in miracles? Do you believe in the supernatural?
Here's the thing. I don't know.
Do you believe in ghosts?
I don't know.
You don't know. See, but you're mixing your categories here, Dan.
No, but here's the thing.
How can you not know if you believe something if knowledge is a higher rung on the hierarchy of epistemology?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Here's why I'm willing to say I don't know if I believe those things. Is because I've heard enough evidence both ways, and there's enough, quote, documented evidence for, and enough evidence of people actively trying to buy into the thing and it coming up with nothing. Like, it's just... But also then I know of other folks who, whenever, they're just ghost stories, people sharing others' experiences, it feels real. It feels like something that would be real, but also I just don't know if I believe it. I just don't know if I do. I'd be if someone were to say I have a way to prove it, and they could in some way definitively prove that there's some metaphysical thing existing in like patches, like individuals, okay, I'd be willing to buy those are ghosts, and then it's like, okay, everything makes sense. And if not, okay, I don't think so. I don't think they're ghosts. I don't believe in ghosts.
You don't believe in ghosts?
I don't believe in ghosts. They do spook me. The idea of them spook me very much. And even though I don't believe in them, you could still scare me with a good ghost story.
Do you believe in the afterlife?
I don't know. Why are you asking all these hard questions tonight? Why did you come to this recording session?
The point I'm trying to make here is that the problem with those kind of questions for people is that they misunderstand the entirety of the use of language.
I was going to say, they're not interesting to me. They're not interesting questions.
They're bad questions. They're terrible questions.
They're not interesting. Like, don't get me wrong. There is no bad question. I don't want to deter anyone from asking any question. Even ones that seem simple. Sometimes people need it. I was talking before about, like, my depression slump that I get into with cleaning. And I was talking to my wife about it, and I straight up told her, I was like, it is not always about, like, how do I put this? Say the thing again, because now that I've set the setup, I can't remember where I was going.
The what thing?
The what? Oh no, we're gonna have to edit this out. What was the last thing you said before I started to think, or before I set up the thing with my wife? My wife, sorry, just
That it misunderstands the use of language to ask those questions.
I forget what I was gonna say. I don't know. All I know is that like it's just not that. It's not interesting to me, and it's not bad because I remember what I was gonna say. As I'm learning to like clean and I'm learning these skills, every once in a while she'll explain them as if like I've had them before, and I just lost them, and I'm like, nope, I've never had that skill. You gotta start from zero. So sometimes I don't want to deter anyone from asking any questions, but I do think they are an interesting questions, the ones you asked me, which is why they're so hard for me to answer, because it's like, how do I answer this question that I never think about?
Do you believe in the Big Bang? Or do you believe in the original singularity of the universe is a better question?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah. I'm willing to, look, here's the thing. I'm an apologist. I'm willing to say that, like, this is how I think of it. And I think that Jesus, if you want to believe in the Bible, this is, like, how I've come to rationalize things a little bit. Because it is rationalization. You have to rationalize things a little bit if you want to believe. If you want to. It is kind of like coding in the sense that you can make a real change to a thing without actually touching it. But there are rules inherently because you are coding. But every once in a while, you can, in theory, throw in something that says ignore this rule on this page. Right? You can just hard override the thing.
How does this connect to the Big Bang?
Connects to miracles.
Oh, okay.
And
kind of circling all around ourselves.
And it connects to this idea of like, so if miracles are real, I feel like that is how you could understand it. And the Big Bang is just the first time they pressed enter. So like, for example, when I installed Discord, you download something off of the internet, right? You're not really downloading Discord. What you're doing is you're downloading the code that writes Discord. Right? So I think of the Big Bang as God hitting the execution button on the setup. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So it is this idea of to create in some way you have to use the rules of the world you're creating in.
Isn't it easier to say that the installer for the universe contained its own execute command?
Yeah, I think maybe that is a more precise analogy in this scenario, but that is the idea.
That erases God.
Well, yeah, because I guess it does. So I don't. No, but that's the thing, right? So I don't agree with that. Yeah, you're right. I guess I don't agree with that. I think that that's not a bad thing to believe, but I just don't agree with it. If that makes sense. I think that God's there. I think that someone clicked the button. But if it turns out that I'm wrong and the installer did come with the execution,
more like a Trojan virus than
yeah. If it did come with the Trojan virus kind of deal, that's fine with me. I'm okay being wrong, but I don't think I am.
But why
Does that make
believe
sense?
then? Why believe in God? Why?
Because if it is true, and I think it's true, why would I not? I like it. It doesn't do any harm. Again, I don't have an issue being wrong. Because I'm not making a knowledge claim. I'm not. It is not a intrinsic part of my identity that I be correct about this thing. Does that make sense? I don't. Yeah, like I think that's what it is. Maybe
All
that's.
right, so
yeah, go on.
Let's start after this little exercise.
Let's start. What are you talking about? We are what? Hold on. Absolutely not. We are 40 minutes into this recording, and you're gonna say let's start?
Yeah, let's start.
I hate you. Go on.
I was asking you simple questions, man.
No, I don't think that's accurate. Would love to hear from the audience. My Twitter is FlynnWriter1993. Go ahead and let me know if you think I was right, if Isaac was right. God, it's going to be like months. It's going to be like months until the listeners hear this, and they're going to be like, I think Dan was right. I'm going to be like, about what?
Don't reach out to us on Twitter.
Don't do it.
Let's start with faith, because that was the prompt, right?
That's the prompt,
faith in the
technically.
concept of God.
Yes. So I think that's important. So hey, ask me that now that we got the simple versions. If you want to ask a few of those with the word faith in them instead, I can show you why I don't like these questions.
No, I don't want to do that. I don't think you believe in God.
Okay.
Because for me, and the way I understand
gatekeeping.
things,
Interesting. Yeah.
The way I understand things, a belief that you tell yourself you believe that is not, how shall we say, alive. It's not a living belief.
Okay.
Is merely it's like a sentence you speak to yourself that no one else hears. It's if the tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, did it make a sound?
Okay.
Sort of a scenario.
So by you asking me those questions, you tricked me into not believing those things.
No. There's no tricks. I'm not
Felt
trying
like
to
a
trick you, Dan. I'm not trapping you.
There's the trap I was looking for the whole time. There it is. I'm not allowed anymore. Sorry, everyone.
I'm not trapping you, Dan.
Oh, what are you doing then?
I'm trying to explore a concept with you.
Okay.
So, in my understanding of belief,
Sure.
belief is highly contextual
Okay.
and not existential.
Unpack that second one especially, please.
The question I asked you earlier, do you believe in God?
Sure.
Is a bad question because it makes itself existential. And if not existential, it's at least ontological.
Sure.
Because it's really a question of your being, your identity. Do you identify as someone who believes in God? Not,
Oh.
are you a believer in God? It was really the question. It's tied up too much in the identity. And
Yeah.
in my understanding of belief is fluid. It's not a static thing. And so to make it identitarian is to misunderstand what a belief is.
So then what's a belief in your mind? I agree with you now that you've said these things. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. I think it's a little semantical of an argument, but also like, I think you're correct. I just think you are.
Well, and part of it is because the question of belief has too much to do with its object, right? So the subject of belief is ultimately the question of what is the object of belief. So, do you believe in X, Y, or Z is really a question of, do you agree with my definition
of X, Y, or Z?
Of X, Y, and Z.
Interesting.
And are you willing to stake your identity on that?
And that's why it was so hard for me to answer those things, huh? Because I didn't want to be put in any singular identity camp.
Yeah, see, you were jumping ahead of me. That's why I was saying these easy answers. No needing to get into the...
I just don't need a sound clip. I just don't need sound clips anymore. There's been plenty of clipped moments of Dan saying things.
I wasn't trapping you, Dan. I'm not trapping you.
Felt like a trap.
You always think I'm trapping you. I'm not trapping you. I'm not gaslighting you on our podcast.
Oh, that's for the stream.
Yeah, those are humor bits.
Okay, I see. Jokes is not in the room. Jokes was not invited to this recording session.
I mean, Jokes can hang around, but he's not the main show.
So that's interesting. It feels odd to try and like make belief not tied to identity, because we are kind of tribal humans, or like humans are tribal by nature. And so how do you think there is a way to separate belief from identification?
I don't think it's necessarily possible.
Okay.
However, I think it can be positive.
So you don't think it's possible, but it's a good idea to do?
No. The identification with a belief can be a positive thing in someone's life.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I genuinely believe that. I just wasn't, It seems hard to do it, though, for instances where it is not helpful or not beneficial.
Yeah. So the question then becomes, what is the object of religious belief for us right now in this podcast? Because this is a question that I get asked frequently.
Can't imagine why.
I'm wrapping up a master's degree in religion. I've got a lot of people who have a very vested interest in my religious identity.
Yeah.
And I find these questions annoying.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, and I think it's harmful. I think the concept of God that we've inherited is harmful. Because most of the time, it has to do with some of the silly things I asked you. Like, do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in the supernatural? Do you believe in miracles? And the problem is, and you nailed it when you were talking earlier, it's really, really easy to believe in those things.
Yeah.
It's not possible to have faith in them.
Thank you. I nailed it, y'all. I got there. I didn't have the notes in yet. I had them up here. I knew it.
The concept of belief is transient and unhelpful and boring. The concept of faith is what I think the positive side of identification can be.
I love it.
Because when I was asking you, do you believe, you went into like the whole knowledge and belief thing. I think faith is the better word. Because belief implies that there's some simplicity to the exchange, right? So I believe the sky is blue. I don't believe in knowledge personally. I think knowledge is a myth, well, not a myth. It's a falsehood. Knowledge isn't real. At least not by philosophical definitions. Justified true beliefs don't exist.
Correct. Absolutely.
But like, I believe the sky is blue. That's reasonable enough.
Right.
I don't know it, but I believe it.
Look, it's real close.
I have no. It doesn't matter.
Whoa.
Right, kind of like believing that. So I'm going to critique your concept of God that you presented earlier.
Go for it.
It doesn't matter if God hit the enter key or not, if it's a virus or not. It doesn't matter if he started the Big Bang or not. It makes no difference to what is there. Especially if he doesn't act on it. It doesn't matter.
I think it is more of, if I'm not misremembering, maybe I misspoke, or I'm revising history in my head because people like to do that. But if I'm not mistaken, and Isaac, you're the editor, you can insert this here if you have the time, which I know you do. It's not like you got anything else going on, so just go ahead and throw it in here. But I did say that I thought that God, quote unquote, was the thing or person or entity that created all things. And I think that for that purpose, whether that means that the Big Bang is the God or what, I don't think that your critique of that part of it is fair. I'm just saying.
So let me be more clear.
Sure.
When I say critiquing your concept of God, I'm critiquing your use of the language God.
Well, right. You asked an agnostic about God. What do you want from me? I'm trying my best over here. No, that's fair. I just but here's the thing: is this conversation. It's funny. You are nailing all the reasons I'm agnostic. This is all it. You're nailing it. One hit after another. Where it's there's some. I think there's some. Yeah, go on.
Can I ask you an interesting question for an agnostic?
Sure.
Is the term God helpful?
No.
Then you don't believe in God. Because you don't believe that the word has meaning or can be meaningful.
No,
at least not in language.
Let's put it this way. I think it is meaningful for a lot of people. It has lost its meaning for me. Does that make sense?
So if you were to talk about the absolute, God is the least helpful term. If you can't say anything about God, he's not a good term.
Well, but here's the thing: you can't say anything about the absolute. But you can't talk about it cataphatically. We can talk about it kind of apophatically, and from that make some cataphatic phrases, but not or statements, but not many. I can't think of really one. I'm sure someone who's smarter than me could, but I cannot.
Yeah. So this is my critique of your concept of God.
Oh, okay. I see.
So you just nailed it. It doesn't matter. He's not.
Dude, we get each other so well.
It's just not a good word. Why keep using it?
What part?
The word God. Why use it ever?
Because it has traditional usefulness.
So it's a tool for social manipulation.
Not manipulation, but it is an established vocabulary about the thing that we want to talk.
So it's a tool for social navigation.
Yes, that is a far better way of understanding it. So you and I may both believe in God. What that means when we say that word could mean vastly different things, because it is based on belief and faith. There is no evidence. It is entirely based on faith and belief. So the word God is only useful as like a bookmark. It's like a verb. So extrapolate for me for a second, because it's easy to go, but that's different. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's the point, is that it's different. Isaac, I can't wait to it's like if you needed to use like actions for verbs, it doesn't work, right? Hey, I need you to go and the box for me. That's what it feels like. But instead we said lift. But once you introduce lift, you lose something else, which is maybe specific details that you then have to intentionally include to specify, which is where then you start to get these branchings of what those definitions mean, and slowly you start to lose the meaning of the original word that we started with trying to define. So I do not find it helpful. No. But I do find it helpful. Yes. Does that make sense? Am I explaining my point of view pretty well, do you think?
Perhaps a little roundabout, but I'm following. Yes, I'm tracking you.
It's hard. It's like, hey, can you use words as to explain why words don't mean anything? Fuck. Okay, hold on. I gotta... aren't all words tools for social navigation? Yes. And I think that's a fair critique, Jesse. But I think that's my point, is the fact that you can understand when I say I need to put this with this because they go together to secure the things. Or I could say I need to put this lid on this bottle. But you know what a lid on a bottle is because you've seen it, you've handled it. There is evidence of them existing in some way, shape, or form.
But you're undercutting your argument.
Interesting, you think so?
Yeah, because you're tying language to physical objects.
No, I get that.
So you're saying that language is real and can refer to real things.
Well, we use language to refer to real things. We use no, but here's the thing. That's my point. So God, I think, is a real thing. I just think the word God and how the words we use to describe God are not helpful. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't make sense.
Okay. All right.
Because if God can't be spoken of in a meaningful way, then God isn't real.
So your object permanence seems to be that of a toddler. I'm trying to think of how to explain this to you in a way that like makes sense. So sometimes you don't see a thing, but it's still there. And I think that that's what that feels like. Like, I don't know. To me, your argument sounds like a lack of that. You know what I mean? Of like, just because I'm not willing to talk about it super in depth. I'm willing to talk about it for fun, for sport. We're doing it now. But like when people are like, well, why didn't you keep preaching or whatever? And I'm like, trying to convince people that I was right wasn't interesting, and trying to convince people that I understood this thing that I was heavily critical of because I think it is dated but important. Didn't go over well with folks. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I think that maybe at this point words aren't that useful to talk about the thing. I think that maybe actions and to some degree talking about it, But again, in environments where there is no right or wrong at stake is my big thing. Does that make sense? Does that explanation answer your question or your
No,
concern?
what do you, because you keep adding complexity onto it. You said that you can do actions, right, about God. That's a whole nother level of complexity.
Do actions about God? What was the
Because you said,
context of that
well,
one?
language might not be useful for describing God, but actions might be. That's a big new argument.
I'm trying to think of what I meant so I can maybe clarify.
And also, you mentioned that crap, I lost it. It was right after the actions thing you said.
I can't think of it.
Oh, that's fine. The actions thing was more interesting.
So I think that. Oh, I remember what I meant. So like more of the like actually living ethically, I think is more of a way to talk about. Again, because I do think that. Well, there's a whole bunch of conversations to go on, so let's keep it on faith. What? Ask me a question about faith. Keep me on topic with faith, because I was about to go into what is the Bible, and I'm not doing that right now.
See, but you've given me a lot of pushback about the things I've said, so I'm interested in hearing about your. What were you about to say about ethics connection to God? Because earlier you said God and the good can't be connected. Or you're not willing to make any statements about that.
I'm not. But it seems that whether it is well, let's put it this way. I have opinions as to these questions. As far as what I believe is true is one thing. What I personally think is correct about those beliefs, like the details of them, vary. Does that make... Oh my god, dude. My brain hurts all the time. This is what it's like to think like me. You're doing... Like... This is why people are always like, it's an easy question. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, this is how my brain works. So I do apologize.
I mean, you've consistently attacked this very platonically, which I think is a terrible angle to take.
Is what?
Precisely because you end up being committed to these philosophical concepts and then completely unable to relate them to what you do day to day.
But it's because it's not about what you do day to day, because you like... That's the thing, right? Like, if you're actively, in my opinion, a practicing Christian, what's more important than doing all of the book stuff is actually living out the things from the book. So it's not so much about believing the right thing. It's not so much about being correct in these conversations of belief, because and I think that's the thing, right? For me, faith and belief are a subpar or sub tier on the ladder of epistemology for me. So I don't hold a whole lot of stake in being wrong about them, because I'm not willing to make a definitive statement anymore about them anyway, because there's no way to. There's no way to make a definitive, we have solved it kind of thing. I think there's very few things we've done that with.
But that's not at all what I'm asking you.
Interesting. I guess
I'm not asking you if you know God is real and what
no,
he
but
is.
here's the thing is that when you ask these questions specifically of theology, suddenly it's like you're trying to tell someone the sky is green. I'm telling you the sky's green. And it's like, no, this is my personal belief is this. So I'm trying to lay out more of my general beliefs versus leading theories on beliefs details. So for me, it's like a conspiracy theory, right? Like I think so. How do I put this? I've been listening to some conspiracy theory podcasts lately, so I'm trying to think of how to put this. So it's like I believe the conspiracy theory happened. I think that it is specifically details from this version of the theory and that version of the theory woven together, like, you know what I mean? But if it turns out I'm wrong, what does it matter? And in this scenario, let's play that out. If I am correct and it is somehow the Judeo-Christian specific God that exists, okay, I mean that's my hunch anyway. I win. You know what I mean? Like, not win as in like whatever, but win as in right. You know what I mean? Like, as far as because that's the thing. I don't care about being right, and I feel like that's all people care about in these conversations, is if they are right.
I think you care a great deal about being right.
I don't. Not on this.
But you've gone to great lengths to clarify.
Because we're doing a podcast about it! So I'm sure... What do you want from me?
I don't know. Every time I try to take a step in a direction, you have to pause and defend your position.
No, I don't know where you're going. You kept me in the dark. I'm trying to play along. Okay. Get us back on track. Where did you want to... Because I genuinely... Hey, audience, this is not goof. I have no idea what the plan was going into this. I was super excited to see what we were doing today. Shy of the topic, I did not know the details, so I'm excited. I was so happy for this survey, and I think that's why I keep dragging it out. I'm sorry, go on, Isaac.
My position that I was coming into is that the entire category of the word God is deeply misunderstood. Ooh. And might be irredeemable.
Oh, interesting take. Why irredeemable? Why that specific word? Because that feels heavy.
Because it has too much baggage. And the things that it has come to mean, just for the Christian apologists who are going to jump down our throats if this ever gets listened to by anybody.
By anyone outside our friends.
Yeah. They're not historical concepts, right? They're concepts that have been semi-projected into history and stripped of their meaning.
Do you have a good example of that, or is that just a generic thing you've learned?
Augustine, right, is
big hitter.
Major theologian, maybe the most influential theologian of all time.
Yep.
Is a huge proponent of the idea that God is all-powerful.
Okay.
And that everything that happens is because God has willed it to be.
Oh, like predestination level of like all-powerful.
Yeah, that's what Augustine's known for.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just helping the audience. I'm sorry.
Nowhere is that in the historic Christian faith.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
That's not in the historic Christian faith.
Well, that's not real, or he did write that way, or like, what do you mean?
No, I'm saying he projected that idea onto Christianity as it was before him.
So he's saying...
He's going back through Christian texts.
Yeah.
And finding the affirmation of what he came to the table with.
And now it's like accepted because Augustine was into it.
Right.
Interesting.
Right, so ahistorical kind of reading of text, proof texting, those sorts of things have gone on for a long, long time in Christian theology. And I don't. So for anybody who's going to come at us from the, well, you're wrong about Christian theology perspective, even the canonization of the Bible itself,
getting into it,
happened well after the founding of the church, well after generations of Christians had lived and died for the faith. They had no Bible. So there's a little bit of, oh, well, you know, Bible this, Bible that. Look, I can prove to you what Christians have always believed because it's in the Bible. Well, your reliance on the Bible isn't super original to Christianity.
Let's hold up there, Buckaroo. Let's calm down.
And because of some of these, you know, historical things, and I'm not I don't want to be like projecting bad ethics back into history, like, oh, these people just manipulated Christianity to affirm what they believed.
Sure.
In some sort of devious way. They were doing their best.
And look, we all are. And we do that to people today. I can't wait for people to do it to Augustine himself. You know what I mean? Like, it'll happen. Just give it some time.
It already has happened. Look at Calvinism.
I know. It's fine.
So, I'm not trying to like judge these historical figures. Not that they care; they're dead. But more saying we shouldn't be so worshipful as to be enslaved to them in our thought.
Do people's love for Paul and the church annoy you?
Yes. I think this has caused some very large, troubling problems when we talk about God. Because we've separated God from meaning. And we're very concerned with whether or not people believe in ghosts.
You keep coming around to the ghost thing. Where the hell are you getting this ghost question from? Why?
I'm using ghosts as an analogy for belief in God.
You're using what?
Ghosts as an analogy for belief in God.
Okay. I wasn't sure if this was a real thing people cared about or like what.
No. Because what is a ghost? Is a ghost a dead spirit? Is a ghost a memory? Is a ghost a thing? Is a ghost this or that or some other bullshit?
Sure.
There's no meaning. It depends on who's asking you. And that's what I was trying to get at earlier with the whole entanglement of identity and belief.
Dude, you scared
me. And I
me.
think it's really, really easy. It's really easy to believe in ghosts.
Yeah.
It's really easy.
Yeah.
And what's worse is that it's very easy to make the word mean whatever you want.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't matter what it means.
Yeah.
Even if God is the Big Bang, or God is physics, or God is some being that exists out of the space-time continuum in another universe and doesn't interact with us at all and makes no difference in anybody's life, it doesn't matter.
Wild. I love it.
That's what I'm going to categorize as the problem.
You're really cutting. Hold on. You really cut out for me. Say that last bit again. All of it.
I said that's what I'm categorizing as the problem of belief, and the questions surrounding belief that I think can be solved by the question of faith. Because what's really, really hard, what's actually challenging, is to have faith in something. The Bible, John, the brother of Jesus,
John, the brother of Jesus,
says that God is love. So let's take that for our concept, because that's my favorite concept of God. Simple, elegant, in my opinion. God is love. Okay? What does it mean to have faith that God is love? Because it implies for me that when you're living your life, you make some sort of hopeful connection despite the world. So that's kind of what I'm saying. Belief is in reaction to the current situation. Faith is despite the current situation.
Interesting.
Right? And it's particularly in this place in history, I think it's very, very hard to believe that God is love. Very hard. Really easy to believe that God controls everything, to believe that, God did this or that 2,000 years ago. Very, very hard to believe that at the end of the arc, at the beginning and end of the arc, right? The place where the curve, meets itself, is love. That's a very, very hard thing to ask someone to have faith in.
Oh, absolutely.
But it has a lot of meaning.
Do you think then that, do you think there is an applicable way to talk about this then, or to talk to other folks about this when talking about beliefs versus faith then? Or do you think that this is just a distinction that is good to know or important to think about when talking about it yourself? You know what I mean? What's the value in talking about this? Not in a why did we talk about this way, but like in a putting a bow on it kind of way.
Well, yes, but it's situational. Let me ask you a counter question that I think will get at what you're trying to get at.
Okay.
What makes... First, I actually kind of want to just get I want to gauge your reaction to what I said.
Out for me. Hold on 1 second.
Hold up. I need to eat my mic a little more.
I don't know whether or not it is you not coming through or what. Let's try this.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I want to gauge your reaction to what I said. Can you
hear me?
No, you're putting your thumb up.
I said I could hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
I said I can hear you. I said I can hear you, and then you looked at me, so I gave you a thumbs up, like, yeah, I can hear you.
I said something after that.
Oh, what?
I said I want to gauge your reaction to what I said.
Okay. I didn't hear it then. What was it?
No, that is what I said.
You want to gauge my reaction?
Yeah. Who's on first?
Say the thing you want to gauge my reaction to.
the whole spiel I just gave.
I couldn't hear you for part of it, remember?
The whole faith thing that I spent like 20 minutes talking about.
Which part? I'm joking.
I'm dead. My soul is crushed. God is dead.
Here's the thing. I don't think I disagree. I just don't think... I think it relies too much on... How do I put this? Happy St. Patty's Day, by the way. It relies a lot on, like, sorry. I'm trying to condense 20 minutes worth of thoughts into, like, a few succinct ideas. I can't do it that well, or can't do it as well as you. I think for me it is mostly, though, like, we agree, so I don't know what to add. I just think that...
Why do you agree? That's kind of my question.
I agree with the general sentiment, with the idea that, like, it has lost meaning, but only because of us as humanity. You know what I mean? Like, we have changed it so much.
Yeah, God is dead and we have killed him.
Yeah,
is
like,
basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, like, it's hard to... But it's hard to say that in a way that, like, makes it not the worst. I think it's...
I think what I'm trying to get your kind of gauge how you're processing is the second part.
Yeah,
about renewing meaning.
I agree with what Jesse has actually put in the chat, who's been here for a while. I've just been... Hi, Jesse. I don't understand how love is a better word than God. I agree with that. I think, like... Because I wouldn't want to associate those two in a, like, I believe this way. I think that believing that is not bad. I think it's good to believe that. I think that you're right. I think there's a lot of benefits to believing that and living as if that were the truth, which is what I try to do. I just don't know if it's a better word by any means. Was that your argument? I don't think it was, though, was it? That love is a better word or just a more accurate word?
No, I would probably affirm that love is a better word.
Oh, okay. I don't. But again, when you say better, do you mean more accurate or more reasonable to understand for people?
It's not about the truth value of the word.
Okay. Well, that I don't... That's the problem with starting in the material, is the fact that then...
Because
damn Aristotelians.
The problem with starting with the truth value of a word in this context is that I'm not talking about whether or not something can be known or justified. Okay. I'm talking about faith, right? So it's a hope. It's despite the world.
Interesting. I think this is one of those instances where just because our ways of understanding the world are different, we're understanding it differently. But I think it also then goes to show just how, like, I don't know, like, it's a tough thing to talk about, and it's a tough thing to come to a consensus to. This is why I'm an agnostic. I don't know. What do you mind if I ask, what's your identity in all this conversation?
How do you mean?
we just spent an hour and a half talking about how belief is tied to identity. So,
I mean, if you want labels that I identify with, I'm a panentheist.
okay. I was curious how, and that makes sense again. So I start very Platonic, and you start very Aristotelian. I find this interesting. That's the thing. Like for me, these sorts of conversations.
I would not identify as Aristotelian.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want you to, and I don't necessarily identify as Platonic. But like as far as like where our philosophical roots are laid, I feel like we come from different sides. No, you don't think so?
No.
Okay. Never mind. No.
If anything, I'm more Puranic, like skeptic. Would be my starting point, with an ending in Hegelian dialectics. That's what panentheism is dialectic theology.
I wonder if you start with Plato and end in Hegel, you get me. Because that's kind of where I think I start and end. Historically speaking.
Yeah, I mean, once you end in Hegel, because Hegel combines Aristotelianism, Platonism, and skepticism.
Right, so we all end up in the same place is what you're saying.
Yeah. if you're a Hegelian, you're a Hegelian.
Okay. Yeah. I think that the end point is that.
But Hegel believes that the absolute has content and you can speak of it.
Oh, I'm sure. Let's put it this way: you can. I don't know how much use it is. I don't know how much you get out of it. Is more my critique of talking about it, which is why I'd rather opt out of the conversation as a serious.
So you're kind of like the left Hegelians.
Yes. Yeah. Theologically speaking, yes.
Well, I mean, the left Hegelians reject theology as a valid study because the words have no meaning, because you can't talk about them. It's not worth the study.
Ooh, maybe I am.
It's just a waste of time to them.
But you see, that's the thing, is I wouldn't call it a waste of time, but that might be my 9 trying to comfort people and like make it okay that people believe in things.
But you yourself believe in things. You had a mystical experience.
Yeah.
So that then you're not. So it is worth talking about.
But I don't know if that's necessarily true, because especially where we are, epistemologically speaking, if someone else hasn't experienced my experience, then why should they value it? It was my experience, not theirs. So why talk about it then?
Well, because people don't exist in a bubble.
Because what? Sorry.
Because people don't exist. People aren't islands. They don't exist in their own bubbles. Any experience you've had is a shared experience.
Ooh, that's an interesting take. I don't know how I feel about that. How would you justify that claim with the idea that like people misremember things all the time?
I don't see how they're related.
So if you experience something and someone else wasn't there to experience it, and you relay the experience incorrectly, did they experience it?
No.
But it was a shared experience.
Yeah, let me explain what I mean.
Yeah.
You are capable of experiencing God because you exist in a place where the word God has content. Had you been born in some other place, you would be incapable of experiencing God, because God's not real without that context. Everything is contextual.
If that's the case, then yeah, I guess they would make evangelism kind of central, huh? So the whole point is you want to give people that context. I don't know. I was going to say, if I follow that all the way down the line, I come to a place that's very dark and very, very left Hegelian.
How so? Go into that.
Okay. I didn't think that was the topic, but, so, I don't know. It just seems like that's where you would end up going, right? So you follow this idea that, oh, we lost him again. It happens. Hold on.
Inevitable.
He always gets dropped at least once. So what I was gonna say is, for me, it's, if God is contextual, that means not everyone can experience him, right? Like, that brings up so many theological quandaries for me, and I think for a lot of folk.
Yeah.
In
I think those theological quandaries are valid, though.
Oh, interesting.
Because I don't believe in that God.
Well, right. This has been a good chat, dude.
This is why I'm
energized.
an advocate for identifying God with love and perhaps dropping the term God in certain contexts.
I was talking with Love the other day, and I was just thinking about it. I was just making up a fake conversation. I'm curious, in what ways would you replace the word God with love? Like, what context do you think that's an important substitute to make?
Well, it's important to tie content to love. So you'd have to describe love. Which I think historically Christianity has done. So that the word love doesn't itself become a meaningless, shibboleth.
Can you explain what that word means?
A shibboleth? It's a word used to identify someone with a particular group. Right? So there's this story in the Bible where two groups are in conflict with each other, and the way one of them pronounces the word shibboleth is different than the other one, and so the way you would identify people in each camp is ask them to say the word shibboleth.
Ooh.
Right, so that's what the word God is, though. Is, oh, do you believe in God? Pronounce this word for me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have meaning outside of, well, your concept of God and my concept of God are the same. God is a meaningless term that can be used just as an identification. And love becomes the exact same thing if you don't give it content.
That is interesting.
It's semantics, but they're important semantics because people get killed over this stuff.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't know if I buy into it 100%, but I think it's a good argument. And I do think it makes sense. I think it makes sense, though, in, like, a supplemental way, not in a, this changes everything kind of way. You know what I mean?
No. Explain.
Like, for my epistemology, it is more of a... Because it is a belief, this is part of a belief. This can be part of a belief system. It can both hold on its own and at the same time supplement others. It feels true because it feels boundless.
Okay, let me recontextualize this for you. I'm not making an epistemological argument at all.
Okay. I'm making
my argument is that this is a poor epistemological argument. Like, the argument I'm making right now is a bad epistemological argument. But it is a very good ethics and aesthetics argument.
Oh, I know. I was just having fun and wondering because for a lot of folk, their theology is intrinsically tied to their epistemology. So I was just I was just curious, like, how do you follow that down?
Well, part of what I'm trying to say is that epistemology is the wrong philosophical study for this.
Oh, Isaac.
Yeah.
Isaac, hold on.
You are having a lot of troubles.
Yeah, look, we've been going for an hour and a half. We're due for some trouble. What can you repeat from the last minute?
Yeah, I was trying to say that epistemology is the wrong lens to try and tackle the question of religion from.
Mm-hmm.
Or, the question of God is not an epistemological argument. It's an ethics argument. It's an aesthetics argument.
And aesthetics, you don't just mean looking nice.
No, I mean what makes life valuable.
Look, I wanted to make sure that we defined all our words for folks.
Yeah, no, aesthetics is more like what makes life worth living, not just oh, this is pretty.
I love that society has hijacked that word, by the way.
Yeah, I hate it.
I love it because they use it in an incredibly narrow way that I love very much. Let's see. I think we agree a lot with some differing on the details, and I think that's okay, and I think that's great. I'm trying to wrap up the podcast because it has been an hour and a half, and the Benadryl, I gotta tell you, it's creeping in. I can feel it. Oh,
should I open chat now? Do you want to do our chat segment?
Yeah, let's do our chat segment. Why don't we sign off from the podcast? Thank you guys so much for listening. If you're listening to the recorded version of this, thank you. Oh my God, all 12 of you are great. We appreciate it very much.
12 is generous.
14 of you. Did I do that in the right way?
Nope.
Oh, no. That's not what I wanted to hear. Anyway, do we have a sign-off? I forget. I don't think we have a sign-off.
No, we don't.
Do we need a sign-off?
Podcast.
Well, yeah, listen to it. It's amazing. They just listen to it. They listen to a whole episode.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it's really rough. Especially my audio. God, I can't wait. Cannot wait. Have you ended Audacity yet?
Yes.
Good. Me too. Oh yeah, let's do our chat thing. I'm gonna hit you off first off with, because it's all Jesse today so far. Correct me if I'm wrong, Isaac, but I thought you don't believe in love. I thought you believe in commitment. I didn't want to throw that one at you so close to the end of the stream, but that is what Jesse has put in the chat, and I would like you to explain, either Jesse or Isaac, whoever can, because that makes no sense to me.
I'm not recalling the context for this conversation. Perhaps if I'm recalling what I was saying at the time, I don't believe in love like the emotion in terms of like romantic relationships. I think love boils down to being committed to someone in romantic context, not in this context.
Interesting. You're saying context is important for you.
Yes. I said that earlier.
Yeah, I know. It's
I don't have the chat history. I just opened the stream.
Oh yeah. So I should read these. All from Jesse. I love hearing about theories on how language can shape our thoughts and culture. We kind of talked about that. The universe is all a computer simulation. Talked about that
True.
kind of. Aren't all words tools for social navigation? I addressed that. I said yes, and that's kind of the point. Just said I'm.
Can I add something to that, actually?
Oh, sure.
When I say social navigation, I don't mean it's just like between different people. I think it's also social navigation between yourselves.
Like your internal selves?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
The internal dialogue matters to that navigation.
Mm-hmm. 100% agree. Next, Jesse was agreeing with me. I think saying the word God has no meaning isn't correct. Fair. You could say the same thing about gravity, and I would. Because we were talking about how there is no real hard concrete evidence of the thing. Hey, Jesse, that's my fucking point. Is that we can't even say that about gravity.
Well, we can talk about gravity pretty positively, and the conclusion that physics has reached is that gravity doesn't exist.
Gravity what?
Doesn't exist.
No, that can't be real. Wow, I didn't know that.
That is real. Yep. Gravity isn't real, according to physics.
Neat.
Veritasium, I think, has a really good video about how that works.
Is it because Newton made physics? Or made gravity? I forget. Is that... Did he patent... Is he the one who the patent's under?
It would make sense. Gravity would be like a real force if Earth was the only thing that existed in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
But you can describe why objects fall to Earth without gravity.
Nice.
Okay, I will post the link to why gravity isn't real.
Yeah, thank you. I would love that very much. Put it in the science. Or dark matter or electromagnetism. Yes, and yes, I know, that's my point. It was all coming around to this. That's when we talked about the theology talk. Yep. Except they did do that, he said, and I don't remember... God, I keep dropping this fucking thing. I don't remember the context that he sent that one under, so... That one's lost to time. Oh no. I also found out recently that the speed of light isn't real. Oh. That's a bummer. There's a whole thing in Star Wars about light speed, so that's unfortunate. It would be a real bummer if Star Wars was an inaccurate science fiction movie. Because right now it's perfect as far as I know, except now with the, speed of light thing.
There are literally other dimensions that they travel to in Star Wars.
Yeah. Let's see. Just gonna clean this up. Jesse said you just want to talk about Ava. Why Ava? Why you want to talk about that?
We can't talk about Ava. Dan hasn't seen it.
Dude, maybe we can do a watch weekend thing this weekend because I'm so tired today, but boy howdy. Boy howdy.
I watched both seasons of Barry in 2 days.
I didn't finish that show. I think I got through season 1 and I really liked it, but Emily did not, so we stopped. What do you think of it?
It's amazing. It's as good as Breaking Bad.
Interesting, Jesse. Thank you. I can get through Breaking Bad.
Then Barry's probably not the show for you. It's very reminiscent.
I really liked Barry. I think it's actually just the fact that it's more modern, and I did not watch Breaking Bad when it came out. So it feels very dated, because it kind of set the standard. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
We're having audio issues tonight. Can you imagine a world where we're in the same room together?
I can.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day. Hey, tomorrow night, we're not playing BioShock. Do some stream cleanup. I'm not doing BioShock tomorrow, Isaac. You're off the hook. You get to just hang out. We're
Cool.
officially starting up Thursday rotations. And I gotta say, Steg's gonna be thrilled.
Why is that?
Because she has asked for us to come back to this game for a while.
What game are you doing?
We're playing Dream Daddy Simulator tomorrow. I am very excited. I have not finished the playthrough yet. I just fucked my first daddy in our playthrough. And it goes, dude, that game, 0 to 60 very fast as far as that goes. It's like PG-13 flirting, and then like at the end of the first day, the guy's just like, so do you want fuck or nah? And it's like, oh, okay. You don't see anything, but just the 0 to 100 is so much, you know?
Jesse, are there any other questions about what we were talking about?
Sorry, Isaac. Feel like I have annoyed you. Oh, Isaac, no. Just kidding. If you ever actually end up playing Mystical Ninja, which I would like to, I think that's next up on the list after BioShock. I will move heaven and earth to be in voice chat for it.
Yes, please.
Let's do it. I got a couple people lined up for story stuff. I'm excited. We got some fun. I got some fun stuff in the pipes for games on the stream. It's gonna be good. Dude, I really think that you covered today's topic really well. Like, no bullshit aside. I think you did a great job, Isaac.
Thanks. I have more of this material.
Do you really?
Yeah, we got through about half of what I was.
Holy cow, dude. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you short. It felt like we had hit a good stopping point, and I was falling asleep a little bit because of the Benadryl.
No, you're good. No, I wanted to get into like historical arguments for the existence of God and why they suck.
Oh, can you just kind of give us a taste of some of that? Pick one of your favorites.
Actually, there's only one that's valid.
Oh.
So like we kind of touched on them without naming them, like the cosmological argument, which is a little bit of your argument that because the cosmos exists, God must exist. I find that deeply unconvincing. And why bother? Because it gives you nothing.
Oh, that again, for me, it is not a good argument. I'm not trying to argue anyone with that. For me, this kind of stuff deeply is mystical in nature. Is deeply experiential in nature.
See, I'm very, very not mystical in my.
Oh,
I don't believe in mysticism at all.
Oh, I'm a big mystic.
I think mysticism is dangerous, personally. Because it's too easy for the ego and the superego to project themselves as an exterior voice into your life.
Okay, let's hold on. We gotta I've heard these terms, but let's make sure everyone's on the same page. When you say ego versus superego, what do you mean?
The ego is like the thing that asserts you exist.
Okay.
right? And is very self-concerned. So like the ego is what drives your more like subconscious desires, or
Basic.
the ego is the expression of your subconscious desires.
Are you talking about projecting ego outside of yourself?
No, I'm talking about the superego projecting inside of the self.
Ooh, okay, so what's the superego?
And mistaking the superego for God.
What is the superego? Explain that then.
I probably Google would do a better job than me. I didn't get a degree in Freudian psychology.
No, that's fair. That's why I figured if you can give me a bare bones, at least then we have an explanation for people. Because I've heard this term, I just forget.
The superego is the part of your mind, so it's internal, it's your mind, but it is the part of your mind that projects your social context onto yourself.
Say it again in a different way, because that was a lot.
The superego is basically your internalized social consciousness.
Your perception of yourself?
So, like, if your society finds something abhorrent,
Okay.
you will find that abhorrent, even if your ego does not. Your superego will impose that on you. Or, like, belief in God is something that can be imposed on you by your superego because you were raised in a faithful household.
Sure.
Superego. And
Okay.
mystics, in my experience,
Sure.
tend to mistake their superego for the voice of God.
Oh, agree.
Well, God told me to do this, or
Yeah.
God told me this, or I had this like life-changing experience with God, when really it's just this internal drive to conform.
That is why I blend my mysticism with skepticism from the get-go. I start with skepticism, and when I can't explain it, that's when I say, maybe it was. Maybe that's where the mysticism is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't start
but
there.
See, now that's another argument that I find to be unconvincing and unsatisfying, because just because you can't understand something in the moment doesn't make it God.
I agree, and I wouldn't say you should attribute to it, but I'm willing to say, like, that's the thing. I don't think you should, but I'm also not going to begrudge people who do, because I could understand how you would get to that conclusion, but I wouldn't make that assertion either. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
So you're willing to defend mystics, but you're not a mystic?
I have mystic tendencies in the same way that I have extroverted tendencies, but don't like to leave my house. Does that make sense?
No.
I love to host people. I don't want to go to a party.
I understand how extroverts who like to stay home work. It's how can you be a mystic without being a mystic that I don't understand.
So it's not. I don't start with mysticism, but I incorporate it.
How?
I guess that's true. I guess you're right. I guess I'm an apologist for mystics because I think it's so possible. It's so possible that I find it intriguing. Like, I love it. I don't know. Maybe it's like watching baking shows when I'm not a baker. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I just love that it's a thing that exists and that it explains so much but also doesn't really do anything.
Okay.
I don't know. Dude, here's the thing. I feel like I live my life just floating around in space. It feels like I'm just constantly bumping into stuff and going, oh, that's pleasant. Oh, I enjoyed that. Or, oh, that was not nice. Oh, that was a rough you know what I mean? As far as, like, schools of thoughts go. Does that make sense?
Sure. I find mysticism dangerous and potentially unethical. A lot of potential for corruption.
Okay. Is there a particular reason or just because?
Because the superego can be manipulated.
so the superego is really what hangs you up.
You want to find the best mystics in the world? Go to the Westboro Baptist Church.
Ooh, yikes.
Those are some
Yikes.
mystics right there. And you know what? Actually, fuck that.
I did. You know what? It's an interesting way to view that. I had not viewed it that way prior to this, but I think that's an excellent point. Huh? Interesting.
It's too big of a thing to allow the superego to control. Right? That because it's the ultimate question. Why live? Why not kill yourself? That's the question, right? What gives your life meaning?
Okay. Kind of intense.
Right? It isn't. It's very intense. It's very intense. This is a big problem.
No, I understand, and we're gonna solve it right now. Let's go.
People do crazy shit because they feel that this is what God wants from them, when it's really just the people around them influencing them in ways that might not be intentional.
Yeah. Too bad.
That's why I'm pretty staunchly against advocating mysticism.
I don't advocate. Again, like, I don't think I am a mystic. I enjoy mysticism. I find, like, I don't view it as the danger you do, but I can see how you would. It's an excellent argument. Like, you're right. I can totally see that. That makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm not a mystic. You're not you know what I mean? Like,
well, personally, I used to be a mystic. Personally, I found it transient. And I struggle to find a way to justify basing what gives your life meaning on something that can change so easily.
No, that's fair. No, I mean that's very fair. That's why I for me, it's like, again, it's like baking. There's some ingredients you don't use as the main part of a dish. It's always spice. It's always a garnish. It's always this, that, the other, because it's just not meant to be that. And I feel like that's what mysticism is. And when you're right, when you put mysticism first, you get what you described. I just don't think that many people are mystic first and last. You know what I mean?
Well,
like
I think you can have the benefits of being a mystic without the drawbacks as a contemplative, which, when you're talking about the two approaches to theology, I'm a contemplative, and I think the contemplative approach to theology is the right approach to theology. Or it's not even theology, because theology is like philosophy kind of based. This is more like personal faith.
Yeah, it feels a little different, but...
And mysticism versus contemplative, like, the only difference is that contemplative theology starts with skepticism. Like, contemplative theology is just think, contemplate, meditate, and think for yourself first.
Oh, that sounds like me then. Okay, that's probably what I do.
But it's highly like, it doesn't pull its punches when it comes to, like, don't sell out for an experience that you had one time.
Interesting. Interesting.
It doesn't write off the experience. Like, a mystical experience is still possible for a contemplative. It's not that you wouldn't ever have, like, mountaintop experiences or, like, religious, ecstasy.
Sure.
It's not saying that's not real. It's saying ground that experience in a broader horizon of reality.
That's very cool. I actually very much like that. Oh.
But when you lose that broader horizon of reality, that's when I'm like, uh-oh, pump the brakes.
Uh-oh, we're losing it here.
That's why it's so important to give content to your concept of God, because if it's contentless, it's mystical. It doesn't have its horizon of meaning. It can mean anything.
Yeah, I can definitely. I think that's definitely a valid argument.
And that's like my critique with people who ask you, like, well, do you believe in God? They're looking for you to check a box for them.
Oh, yeah. They want it. Well, it's a checklist of things you ask people who claim to know things about these sorts of things.
Right.
It is almost always the first thing people ask when they enter the stream who have never been in the stream before. Do you believe in God? Hi, welcome to the stream. Yeah, we're just playing Destiny. Yeah, I guess I do believe in God. Kinda. Sometimes. In some ways, but not in others. I don't know how to answer your question. I'm playing Destiny. Hold on a second.
Well, and this is why I prefer what I would label as a biblical concept, that God is love. I prefer that to, like, oh, God is this being living in heaven who comes down and, like, interacts with earth through miracles, and you can talk to him. But that doesn't work for me because it's, well, frankly, it's nonsense, because it doesn't mean it's too contentless. Is God all powerful? Yes or no? Like, is God good? No. Yes or no? Is God Jesus? Yes or no? These are all fine questions, and God can be all of them. That's why it's a bad word. It's too whatever. You know, God can be...
it's too nothing.
Yeah, it's too much nothing. But when you say God is love, as a panentheist, to me, like, the content of the word love implies that there's this relationship between the creation and the creator in a way that is, and this is what's hard about it, right? There's a loving relationship between creation and creator in which both are brought into each other. So to identify a God who is somehow off in heaven is nonsense to a panentheist.
Sure.
It doesn't make sense. Why would you believe that?
Right, the whole point is that they are here and there. Like, they exist. They are. Right?
Yeah, but they also are not. You don't erase the identity of the other.
Right.
Right, we did this in the Hegel episode, right? We're talking about interdependency.
Sure.
We were talking about it in that episode mostly about, like, individual psychology.
Mm-hmm. But it applies to this as well.
Yeah, this is panentheism explored.
Okay.
Right, that when you make God the God of, you know, relationship and creation, and then you apply love to that, suddenly you have content. Right, and I think that content is explored in the Bible. Love is patient, love is kind, does not envy, does not boast. But those are all verbal. Like, those, when I say verbal, I mean, like, it's a verb.
Right.
You know, right, those are all, like, human things.
It personifies it in some way that gives it literal life.
Yeah. But it's also it's not belief, because there's a lot of evidence to say, well, things are kind of fucked.
Yeah, certainly is, huh?
But the reason, I think, and this is why I was moving it away from the epistemological argument, is because if you take it from there, then no, you end up in nihilism.
You end up in what? You cut out.
Nihilism.
Bruh, love me a good little dose of nihilism. Can't have too much, but you do need. Sometimes you just need a little shot just to, like, keep you going.
It's good for you. I do agree. It is good for you. A little vaccination of nihilism to keep you from believing crazy shit.
You gotta feel the nothingness that is nihilism to then remember that, oh, but feeling stuff's great.
Well, but that's why it's an aesthetic argument. It's an ethical argument. Because it's the question of, well, if the universe is what it appears to be, from an aesthetic, ethical standpoint, if the universe is really as shitty as it can be,
as it appears to be,
yeah, then you run into some big problems from an ethical standpoint.
Yep.
About what you should do and whether you should continue to do.
Yikes.
In general. In general,
huh?
This is why the first episode of this podcast, I was talking about one of the most basic philosophical questions.
Yeah.
Should you kill yourself?
You brought it up here. You brought it up in this episode.
Yeah. Anyway, Jesse, what's the fun question, but you don't feel like there's energy for it?
Oh, this has got to be the last question. I'm so tired, dude. I'm drained. But if you got the energy, I'm more than happy to hear it out.
I just want to hear the question. Maybe we don't have
I do
energy
too.
for it.
Yeah. Let's see what it is. Don't get me wrong. I want to hear what the question is, and then if the answer is we'll discuss it on Discord. That's fine with me. Because it does seem like we got kind of a empty house today.
I'll be honest. I don't know if our Discord community is all that interested in this.
I agree, dude. I agree. Is there any power greater than God in a biblical sense?
Is there any power greater than God?
In a biblical sense. I don't think this is can God make a rock so heavy? I think that this is a...
Yeah, in the Bible, is there a power greater than God? Depends on what book of the Bible you're reading.
Oh, really? You think so? You think there's a book where there's something greater than God in it? Or are you going to talk about Job's God allowing the devil to do a thing?
No, I was going to talk about Jesus revealing the nature of God to us in becoming powerless.
Interesting. A lot of presuppositions up in there, but you are correct.
In my opinion, the general idea of God that the Bible tends to suggest is one that identifies as non-power.
Jesse said, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah to what, though? I don't know where the delay is.
I think about where you think it shows that there's a power greater than God.
Yeah, I mean, the power greater than God would be the power that God submits to himself.
And with that fun brain teaser...
Brain teaser?
It is in the sense that, like, it feels like a statement of, I believe the Bible because the Bible says it's correct. You know what I mean?
No, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. Is that... this is why the word God fucking sucks sometimes. Love doesn't win. Love lets itself lose for the sake of the other.
Sacrifice.
Yes.
Interesting.
That's the power greater than God.
Interesting.
That's why it's compelling to believe in him.
According to you.
Well, yeah, that's what I was trying to gauge your reaction to, is like, I don't know. Am I just like trying to fool myself that life has meaning?
I'm not trying to fool yourself. Life has meaning, but here's the thing. And I think this is the philosophy I have that makes those questions and me a bad test subject for those questions. There is no right answer as to what that thing is, though. Life has meaning. It's just what you make of it. So for some folks, that meaning needs to be mysticism. For some folks, that answer needs to be this, that, the other. You know, like, I don't think that that's inherently
Yeah, I just find that take to be too individualistic. It doesn't incorporate the other enough into the self.
I think that acknowledging it does, though. I think acknowledging it and talking about it does actively.
I do have my chat open on my phone.
Okay.
You could do that.
Yeah, look, I think of you as the producer. Not tonight, though, because, like I said, I do need to go. Ooh. I don't have a vape, though. Oh, no. Jesse.
You don't need one.
Yes, you do. To be on the Cogitator show, you need to have a vape.
I'm gonna be done with that in about 3 months, so I hope not.
I do need to go. Thank you so much, Isaac, for another wonderful show.
Yeah.
Another wonderful hang sesh. Like I mentioned, tomorrow, Dream Daddy Simulator, Dream Daddy Dating Simulator. It's gonna be fun with my buddy Peyton's back. We're gonna date some dads. Yeah. Thank you so much, Isaac, again. Very cool. Okay, I'll end the stream now.